Hello! Okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me. And this was an unexpected video. I didn't plan this video, but they dropped a new trailer for the upcoming FX TV show Alien Earth last week, and I just really wanted to share with you all my thoughts on that trailer, because it's a trailer that just did something to me. And for those of you that are new here, I'm a massive fan of the Alien franchise. I will always be excited and looking forward to anything new from within the world of Alien. But when it comes to this TV show, I've been a little bit on the fence. I haven't been quite on board with the idea, with the premise, with the fact that we've got this horror icon, this creature, this iconic creature, this iconic monster. You know, it's coming to Earth. And I've never really been completely on board with that, just because, you know, I'm a massive fan of those original movies, of Ellen Ripley's story, and I just feel like this could potentially affect sort of the impact and the power behind that story. But like I said, I'm a massive fan of this franchise, and I will always look forward, you know, to anything that we get from within this world. But when it comes to the show, I have been a little cautious. I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I'm not sure if this is right. But we've had this new trailer, and we've had a couple of trailers. I've already done a reaction to, or a review to a trailer for this show, and I quite like the look of the show. I kind of like sort of that kind of, it's almost got like a retro futuristic look, which captures sort of the essence of those original movies that I'm really digging. But it's still not it still wasn't a trailer that kind of won me over to the idea of this, you know, of the alien, of the xenomorph coming to Earth. But then we had this new trailer, Greener World, that dropped last week. And there was just something about this trailer that while watching it, it was like, oh, I think they might be winning me over here with this premise, with this idea. And then you get a shot in the trailer, which I will touch on when we watch it together. And it was a shot that was like, oh, okay, I think I'm just coming over that fence now. I think do you know what? This could work. Like, this could work for me. For me personally, I'm not saying this, you know, it's not going to work for anyone else, but for me personally, I think I might be just coming around to this idea of the xenomorph coming to Earth. So with all that being said, I've rambled on a little bit there with the intro, but yeah, let's jump into this trailer. Okay, let's jump into this.
If I'm not human, what am I?
So already, you know, I'm not sure what the name of this character is. I know she's a synthetic, and just sort of that line there of, you know, if I'm not a human, then what am I? I'm intrigued, because these are sort of ideas that I felt like they were exploring with the character of David, Michael Fassbender's character in Prometheus and Covenant. I actually quite liked Covenant. I know I'm in a minority there, but it was really sort of exploring these kind of deep sort of themes of what does it mean to be human, and then to have this creation, sort of, you know, something that we've created, like David, the synthetic, who's sort of questioning his existence and all of that. And I just felt like they were going into some really interesting places with that character that I really just connected with. It sort of really resonated with me. Maybe I'll go into more detail around that in another video, because I think that's for a completely different video. But yeah, again, it sort of reminded me a little bit of what I liked about the prequels with that line there.
If I'm not human,
then what am I?
What am I?
And it kind of makes me question, maybe, or guess, like, you know, how is that sort of line and what she's saying there going to tie into this sort of the bigger picture of this story that they're telling with this TV show. And straight off the bat, with this trailer, it's kind of like slowly kind of winning me over to the sort of that idea of this premise, of these creatures, of the xenomorph coming to Earth, because they are already sort of showing to me or giving me a glimpse into what they're potentially exploring with its themes, maybe. I could be completely wrong.
Did you even think about
A nice looking effect there. I'm not entirely sure if that's a model or CGI. It looks okay. And here you've got all these different creatures. I think there's about 5 different creatures here, and I love the soundtrack that's accompanying, or the piece of music that's accompanying the trailer here as well. It's quite eerie, or it adds to the eeriness of what it's showing within the frame. It sounds like Radiohead, but I don't think it is, but it does sound very much like a Radiohead track. Big fan of Radiohead, by the way.
was it blue skies
But a great choice of music to accompany this trailer, I feel.
from her?
I'm really intrigued by this character as well. He was in the first, one of the first trailers to this. You've got him sat in front of the terminal mother, and he's typing this information, and you've got the xenomorph on the other side killing one of his crewmates, and it's quite a cold, calculating scene, and I loved it. And it's just got me really intrigued by this character and what this character's motivations and purpose are. But I just love this shot there of him sort of lying with the gun, and he obviously could hear something going off in the background.
Did you see
Now this Bayeux, the ship reminds me of the USS Sulaco from Aliens, the troop transport. I don't think it is, because I think it's the ship that we've already seen at the beginning of the trailer, but it kind of looks like a troop transport, a marine troop transport. But again, effects are looking pretty good for a TV show. And here we go, you know, the part of the story. I mean, everything else that, you know, that we get a glimpse of in space has got me really excited. Like, it looks great. I think they've done a really good job at capturing sort of the essence and that kind of the grittiness and the dirtiness of those original movies. But then we sort of come down to Earth, and this is where the show really kind of needs to win me over and sort of convince me that this was actually a good idea. For me anyway, personally. I mean, for a lot of people, it'll be okay, and, you know, but perhaps I'm just being petty.
This ship
Great shot there.
collected specimens.
Then we got Timothy Olyphant, you know, the bad guy from Die Hard 4. Really like him as an actor. I was really happy to hear that he was on board here. I'm not really sure what character he's playing.
5
Now, this shot is interesting. I love the practical, you know, the actual sets, by the way. The set design looks absolutely great. But this clearly looks like CGI to me. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, looking at this at the minute, this looks very clearly, you know, it's a CGI creation. And I'm just thinking, well, why couldn't they just go practical there? Because there appears to be a lot of practical within this show. And, you know, for those of you that have been following me will know, and for those of you that are new here, I absolutely adore practical effects.
new life forms from distant planets.
A shot by there giving me Alien 3 vibes. There's actually a lot in this trailer that gives me Alien 3 vibes. A lot sort of from the colour, so the lighting, sort of certain shots. There's one particular shot coming up, actually, that really took me back to Alien 3. And I like that, because I'm actually a massive fan. I absolutely adore sort of the cinematography and just the look of Alien 3. I don't know what that says about me, but it's a very kind of drab, dirty, gritty, sort of earthy kind of world that's created within Alien 3, and I just loved a lot of the imagery and just sort of the look and how the music played into all of that. But look, so going off on a tangent for a moment, back to Alien Earth. And I just, you know, you've got the classic kind of chains there, sort of, again, taking me back to Alien. But they've done a great job. I feel like they've done a great job just from the glimpse that we get in here of really capturing sort of the look, the feel, and sort of the essence of those original movies. It feels like we are within that world. It feels like this is based a few years or however many years before the first Alien film. Not sure who this guy is, but I'm sure he's involved with Wayland.
We don't lock them down.
And it's like, you know, that shot there of the same thing that we seen earlier on, it's practical. I mean, that looks practical to me. So, like, why did they use a CGI? Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe it isn't CGI, but to me it looked very much like a CGI effect. But there's clearly a lot of practical effects being used within this trailer, within this show that I love. This shot has got me very intrigued. Again, sort of honing in on that kind of the coldness of that moment with this character in front of the mother terminal and allowing his teammate, basically, or it appears that he's allowing his sort of crewmate to be killed by the xenomorph. And you've got the xenomorphs there in the background again, and I'm just very, very intrigued by this character's involvement within the story. It's almost like, and this is a synthetic, but it's almost like he's a little bit he's emotionally maybe affected by what is happening there. The fact that he's got to sort of turn away and kind of close his eyes and, you know, sort of giving, you know, sort of injecting a little bit of uneasiness, you know, that sensation of, you know, that unnerving sensation really within the moment of the horror. And that's another thing that I kind of really like about this particular trailer. It kind of really sort of, what it's doing for me is kind of highlighting the horror within the show, within the story. Because up until Alien Romulus, I mean, we were missing sort of that horror, the horror element within Alien. And Fede Alvarez kind of really sort of went back to that, kind of really sort of wanted to bring back the horror that we had been missing when it came to sort of the Alien franchise. And I feel like the show, we're potentially getting that again.
It will be too late.
And you've got like these simple shots here, like with what looks like a butterfly sort of just landing on the plant. And I just think, to me, it kind of gives me a glimpse into, again, what it might be dealing with its themes. And it's all of these little moments dotted throughout the trailer, you know, with the moments of horror, the practical effects, you know, the certain lines by certain characters. If I'm not a human, then what am I? You know, and a simple shot of some wildlife there with a butterfly, or what appears to be a butterfly. It could be an alien insect of something. It looks like a butterfly just landing on a flower. And it sort of, it gives me hope, you could say, for the show for me. Even though I'm already looking forward to it, I am already excited. As I said, I'm not completely won over by its, you know, its premise, its idea. And then you come to the very final shot. And I love that sound effect in the background there. It's like straight from Aliens. Oh yes, love it. But anyway, this shot by you, right? So this is my favorite shot in the entire trailer, and that's because I think it was this shot that sort of made me sort of go, "Oh, I think I'm 100% on board for this now." And it's because what it did to me was really sort of take me back to being a kid again, watching these movies, and why those movies really got under my skin, why they terrified me as a kid. And the power behind Ellen Ripley's story was to always stop these creatures from getting to Earth. That was sort of, you know, the power, the intensity behind her story, sort of the meaning, the reason. And, you know, the thought of having one of these things on Earth is horrifying. And this kind of taps into that kind of, like, just from the way in which the scene is shot, from where, you know, how you could see the xenomorph there at the bottom, which looks very similar to the Bambi burster from Alien 3. It's giving me very Alien 3 vibes, but sort of that kind of the combination of that Earth setting, which is still, you know, it's
almost quite alien-like at the same time, but it's very much Earth. It looks like a cave, and you've got the alien there, you've got the xenomorph there in a very kind of Earth-like setting, and there's just something about how all the pieces within this frame, it just gave me creeps. Like, it's a creepy scene, it's a creepy moment, and it kind of tapped into that sort of the horror and the fear of being a kid watching those original movies, and then, you know, being afraid after watching the film. You know, I'd go to bed and I'd be afraid to go to sleep just in case I had nightmares, or perhaps the alien was there lurking in the darkness, because as a kid, you know, I had a very overactive imagination, and it just kind of really tapped into that, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but it kind of really sort of, there's just something about that shot that was like, ooh, just gave me chills. And then it's like, with everything, you know, that's sort of being displayed within the trailer, it was like, yeah, I think I'm on board for this now.
So yeah, a little bit of a longer video than I planned this one to be. You know, for a trailer that's only 1 minute and 25 seconds, and I've managed to ramble on about it as long as I have. But there was just a lot within this trailer that kind of gave me personally hope for this show. You know, like I said, I'm already looking forward to it. I'm aware of the talent behind it. I haven't really seen or read anything else from Noah Hawley, who is the showrunner and the creator of this show. But I've heard good things, I've heard positive things, and I am liking the look of it. But this trailer kind of really gave me these other glimpses into where, you know, what they're possibly exploring with some of these characters, especially the synthetics, because that kind of then takes me back to what I really admired about what Ridley Scott was attempting with Prometheus and Covenant. I mean, it didn't quite fully come to life due to the fact that he never really finished that story, but I was very intrigued, and I really liked what they were doing with David's story, and this might be a way of kind of loosely maybe, or kind of somewhat connecting to that story, because this potentially could go into some really interesting places with the fact that, you know, if we're really going to sort of use the prequels here, you know, David creating the xenomorph, and then you've got this synthetic here sort of questioning her existence as well, and then sort of how that kind of ties into these creatures, and you've got the xenomorph within all of this, and I just think there's an opportunity to do a lot of interesting things with its themes and its ideas, and for me personally to give it a satisfying reason to have the xenomorph on Earth. This might not work for me. The story might not work for me still. Like I said, you know, I'm a massive fan of the Ellen Ripley story, and I just feel like this has the potential to diminish the power and sort of the intensity of that story and sort of the purpose of the character of Ellen Ripley. But there was so much in this trailer, you know, from a horror perspective, and just kind of what it did. Like I said, that kind of the very final clip there, it's a very, you know, simple clip, but it just took me back to being a kid, you know, of having that fear of experiencing these movies and what it would do to me as a child, with someone who had a very kind of overactive imagination, and it would scare that, you know, these are movies that I would go back to as a kid all the time. These are movies that fueled my love for film, but they were also movies that fucking terrified me. Like, it made me afraid of going to sleep in the dark, and so I would imagine sort of the fucking xenomorph sort of peeking its head out of the attic space and all of that, you know, what these films would do to my imagination. And then you've got that kind of very sort of that moment there of the xenomorph within sort of that very Earth-like setting, or in an Earth setting, and it kind of just really taps into that fear, that kind of the childhood fear that I had of watching these movies. And like I said, you know, with everything else that's going on within the trailer, you know, yes, I think I'm definitely more on board with this now than I was. I really, really like the trailer. I'm not going to do any more now reactions to this. I didn't expect or didn't plan to do this one. But the show comes out in August. I think it's August the 12th on Disney Plus here in the UK, and Hulu in the States. And I am really excited for it. I am really looking forward to it. But the question is, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about all of the trailers they've been dropping and all the sort of the glimpses that we've been getting into this show? Are you looking forward to it? Do you hate the idea of the Xenomorph coming to Earth? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews and trailer reactions from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. And I just want to say another massive thank you to everyone that has supported the channel recently. You know, it means the world to me. So yeah, that's it from me for now. Enough rambling from me. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.